A very warm welcome to you, and thank you so much for joining our Homeopathy 24/7 podcast. We are going to be speaking to an array of international guests who will share their knowledge and experiences of homeopathy with you. We will discuss all types of subjects such as remedies, symptoms, and stories of health. No matter where you are with your homeopathic journey, we aim to inspire you on your quest to natural health and living. The podcast is brought to you by Mary Greensmith, the founder of Homeopathy 24/7, which is a global platform connecting you with a homeopath wherever you are in the world, 24 hours a day. So let's get started with today's chat. Please welcome Mary Greensmith.
Hello, lovely to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. It's so great that you can join us this week because I've been joined with Ciara Corcoran. Welcome, Ciara. It's so lovely to see you. And we get the opportunity to talk about homeopathy again.
Yes, absolutely. Hi, Mary, and hello, everyone out there in cyber world listening.
It's so lovely, isn't it, that actually we get to answer some great questions. And I have pulled off some really good questions about homeopathy that are just going to make us think how we think as homeopaths. Does that make sense?
Totally, yeah, because I think we're in the space of homeopathy, so it's kind of almost second nature to us to think through the lens or see health through the lens of a homeopath. But when you're new, relatively new, or even just coming to it by word of mouth, you know, our perception of what homeopathy is can be a little bit different. So it's nice to have the confidence to kind of be able to ask a question, have the confidence to know that it's not a silly question. Because I think that's sometimes as well, when people ask questions, they go, I know it's a silly question, but no such thing as a silly question.
Yeah, exactly. And also, what I love about this opportunity is that I've picked up these questions from our Ask a Homeopath Facebook group, and it is so difficult for us as homeopaths to go in and give proper answers when you've just got to write a few things. And just the opportunity to explain why we say what we say, I think is really, really important. And people are going to learn so much from this opportunity.
Yeah, because the last thing you want to be is to come across in any way dismissive of somebody's question, because it's very important to them and it's very important for us to be able to support and teach people about why we are answering it the way we do. And sometimes it's just not possible to get all the information we want to into that particular post.
Yeah, especially if we're busy answering consultations, helping people. Yeah. Okay, so let's begin with the first question that I picked up.
Okay.
Because I am asked this such a lot, so it's a very, very important question. And if you've never asked this question, I bet you thought it at some stage if you're a parent. Is there any homeopathic remedy that would help my very picky children with liking a more of a variety of food? I'm asking for a friend. Now, obviously, what we don't know here is how many foods these children are actually eating and what is actually happening when they're presented with food. So let's start by just exploring what we first think when we read a question like this.
Yeah, so I suppose a few things are springing to mind immediately. First, well done to that lovely caring mum, because I'm sure it sounds like she's really concerned about her little one, wants them to get the nutrition and a varied diet. And I'd be very interested to know, going right back to the circumstances even of pregnancy and birth, how was mum, how was baby, were there any kind of antibiotics, maybe strong antibiotics given to either of them in or around or after the birth? Because as we all are learning all the time, the gut, our second brain, can have a huge impact on our general health. And that's where remedies can really kind of come into play. And I'm kind of backtracking a little bit when this person asked, is there a remedy? Thing is, there are several remedies, hundreds of remedies that could possibly really, really help to support this little one in her ability to expand on her diet. There's lots of other questions as well, behavior-wise. What's happening when the child is presented with a particular food? Are they getting very angry? Are they throwing tantrums? Is it a sensory thing? All those clues that we need really have an impact on how we prescribe remedies. So there are so many variables to this particular scenario. And I think as a mum myself, I've been there, and sometimes it can just purely be a phase, and it can just be a way of a child's way of communicating.
I think you're so right that this finicky eating could be caused by so many different things, couldn't it? And that's why it's a very difficult question to know where to start with it, really, because we don't know what age the child is. And of course, if a child is just weaning, that's a completely different scenario than if the child is 6 years old, and it's a completely different scenario if the child is 13 years old. We also don't know about the diet of the whole family and the types of foods that are in the whole family as well. But we know that a lot of children are going to choose fruit over vegetables, or there might just be a few greens that they'll eat, or they really dislike meat, or whatever it is. And each element of the food types that they particularly like and the food types that they're particularly drawn to or dislike can help us choose a remedy, can't it? Because each remedy will have a picture about food with it. So we need to explore this in so much detail, don't we? To go to start looking at the, as you say, 200, 300, 400 different remedies might be useful. Where do we start? So more information, obviously, we need to start with.
Yeah.
And I think also that this is quite a common thing, isn't it, for children as they're growing up? Would you agree?
Absolutely. And one thought I had there as well, I think we've all seen since the pandemic that, you know, depending on the age of this particular child, there's a certain cohort of children now kind of in their early teens or tweens who have really suffered with the lack of socialization, and they're really struggling emotionally. And I particularly love to kind of do a bit of a deep dive with people around the emotional state of their child if things have changed, if behaviors are changing, because I'm sure it's you know pretty obvious for many parents when something like this happens suddenly that it's a child possibly crying out to be able to control a situation. So often you know, we might like to know more about, has something been happening in the home? Has there been any grief? Has there been any trauma? And that's another indicator for us to carefully select a remedy to support the child.
Absolutely. Yes, you're so right. It's just what was, is this a new thing?
Yeah.
Is it something that's growing? Is it something that's getting worse? Is it something that started suddenly? And also then we have the whole aspect, don't we, about appetite. Are they hungry? Are they wanting foods in between meal times? Are they wanting to sit down? Do you have family meal times where you sit down together? Or are meal times happening toing and froing? Are you cooking different foods for different people at different times? The whole scenario of how the family works might be important in this case, mightn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, long answer to a short question is there are many, many variables, and that's why homeopathy is so amazing, because it's so individualized to each and every person, baby, child, teen, and you know, older aged. individual, and what we're doing is, we're part detectives. We're trying to just delve in and find all those little clues, but without a little bit more information, it's very, very hard to give any more, I suppose, definitive answers. And that's where clearly a consultation can really, really help, because to be fair to the parent, to the child, to the family, by suggesting a couple of remedies would be doing all of you a disservice.
And in fact, that's not what we're here for, is it? We are
No.
here to help you learn about homeopathy. We're here to help you understand why we ask the questions we do, why you need to explore differently. Because the answer is yes, there are homeopathic remedies that can help your very picky children eat more foods. And certainly with children who have reactions, are sensitive to particular foods, they're sensitive to milk or gluten or other foods as well, allergies. Homeopathy can really reverse that situation. Homeopathy can help you be so much more resilient and stronger. It can really strengthen your gut biome so that you are able to tolerate lots of different foods. So yes, homeopathy is really useful. No, it's not a simple answer. It's certainly not an acute situation. It's a chronic situation, because we're looking at resetting the gut. We're looking at all the mind and emotional traumatic times. We're looking at family medical history. So we're looking at miasms. We're looking at bringing in those inherited susceptibilities. We're looking at the trauma of birth and what has happened since birth, because we might have a situation where we've had some medication or something that has made a change to the gut biome. And we're looking at the family unit. What happens, what foods are available, what foods are suggested at school, and those outside influences and friends and things like that. So huge topic. We could talk forever about it. But I hope that the real answer is yes, there are homeopathic remedies. Let's get started, because there is nothing better than helping your child go from eating 4 or 5 foods to having a complete diet. And that happens all the time. That is our business. That is what we do as on a day-to-day homeopathic life.
Yeah.
Okay, shall we have a look at another question? Completely different.
Rack on.
Okay, so this is a really interesting one, actually. My husband is insistent that he undergo gallbladder removal surgery next week, as he had cysts that sit at 6 mil. As much as I wish he would hold off and get regular scans instead, he will go through with it. What can I do for him post-surgery and help him with healing? He's had 5 surgeries in 5 years, but I know that homeopathy can help post-op. So yeah, I agree that homeopathy can help with any surgery and help that healing afterwards. Have you got anything particular that you would start with pointing family members to helping through surgery?
Well, first of all, I'd say to this person, breathe, it's okay. And I think that sometimes there's not a perception, sometimes there's a desire and a wish that, because we've seen homeopathy do its amazing work, and it can do, he seems to be in an advanced stage of his pathology here. So I can kind of get a sense of a little bit of anxiety from that person saying, oh, I really wish he wasn't going for surgery, but it's not my choice, it's his choice. And the reality is, we're all responsible for our own health, and it is okay to use the medics, the medical profession. Surgery is really important. It saves lives all the time. But that's where it's literally a marriage made in heaven sometimes, when you have homeopathy to support people pre and post surgery. So anxiety wise, is anticipatory anxiety is the first thing that springs to mind for pre-surgery, both for maybe this person's
Family member.
partner
Yeah.
and the patient himself. So if there's kind of a real fear or dread, we can ask a little bit more about how is it affecting him, how is it affecting his mood, where is he feeling the anxiety, and we can look at first aid remedies such as aconite, arsenicum, gelsemium, arginate, all those kind of anticipatory anxiety remedies. So that's the pre-surgery. And post-surgery, this is where I love homeopathy. It shines post-surgery. So you have remedies to help with metabolizing the anesthetic, really kind of help get that kind of get the body's response to the anesthetic working well. Obviously, pain, huge. Inflammation. We have the kind of wonderful surgery mix, such as Hypericum for the nerve pain, for Arnica for the bruising and tenderness, chamomilla. And then how is this person's mood after surgery? We could find out a little bit more about how is he coping. Is he withdrawn? Is he tearful? Is he angry? So it's symptom-based, like everything else in the homeopathic world. We're not looking to diagnose, we're looking to see how is this person's health now, mentally, emotionally, physically, and we will absolutely guide and support with remedies, and homeopathy can really kind of come into its own. So there's my take on it.
Yeah, absolutely right. And the great thing is that we know that surgery is going to create bruising inside and out. So we've, as you said, Arnica for that. And we know that Calendula is a remedy for slice, for a cut, whether internal or external. So that remedy is really, really useful as well. As you mentioned, Hypericum for nerve injuries. And I think, as you mentioned, homeopathy is not instead of surgery. So never feel that you failed if you're going for surgery. Homeopathy is about healing, but it cannot take the place of surgery. So don't have thoughts that you could have done it differently. You are where you are right now, and you've done the very best that you can with the knowledge that you've had. So I hope that everybody can understand that. Take what you've got now. There's lots of information about the remedies post-surgery, so we'll perhaps put a few links down below to find ebooks and things that you need to be looking at. But well done looking at that treatment afterwards. And the great thing is that surgery is where most of the publications have been made with homeopathy. So there's lots of really fascinating reports about how homeopathy can help with the healing post-surgery. So really, really good question. So thank you very much for answering it. Okay, let's have a look at another one completely different now. Always worth investigating this one. We will be travelling and flying out of an airport that has a new CT scanner at security for luggage, so no need to unpack the computers. Should I be worried about my homeopathy?
Okay, that's a good one. And it's a very common one, actually. From when I can remember in college studying, there was always the question about, oh no, my remedies, they'll be all destroyed if they go through a scanner. My experience personally is no, they're going to be okay. Depending on where you live and whether it's domestic or international, there are lots of things you can do. You can, one kind of classic, I think, thing people do is wrap the remedies in tin foil. For me, I actually like to you can actually buy online relatively cheap, relatively cheaply. And you can buy really nice kind of anti-radiation pouches and yeah, use that to hold your remedies if you're feeling the kind of the anxiety around that and it makes you feel better. But I travel a lot. I actually used to work in the travel industry and I'd have my first aid kit. Sometimes I'd forget to put it in anything and always used remedies. So, we're looking at an energetic um, medicine here. So, yeah, that's my take on it is don't worry, be happy, grab your remedies, you'll be fine.
Yeah, I totally agree. We have found generally that whatever they do to them, it doesn't
Yeah.
really affect whether they're going to be useful or not. So don't worry. Good answer. Good answer. Okay, let's go through to let's go through to this. What would you take for an overactive, irritated bladder? No infection, comes and goes at various points of my cycle, but this month it's really dragging on. It's like a constant niggle. Want to pee lots. If I do pee, it helps, but it doesn't actually go. No more pain during peeing. I do also need to actually pee way more often, maybe 2 or 3 times an hour. So when we see, this is actually, she's provided quite a lot of information here. It's a really good starting point. But as always, we want to know more, don't we? Because the
Yeah.
one thing that really stands out for me there is, but this cycle, it's really dragging on. And that indicates for me, this is not a new symptom, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. As I was listening to it, the first thing that struck me was, when did it start?
Yeah.
If it started on this cycle, then it possibly, probably, most likely is an acute uh, infection or condition. However, if something has been going on for maybe 2, 3, 4 months and longer, that's where we would consider it a chronic condition. Acute is usually something that comes on within the last kind of week or two in general. So, and the fact that it's tied in with her cycle is also really, really important. We would need to know a little bit more about her cycle. The length, has it changed? Does it vary? And yeah, more specific symptoms around the cycle. Are there any other really obvious symptoms that we might need or a homeopath might need to point in the right direction, such as your mood as well, your past history of health, again, emotional causation. So
Exactly.
it's kind of the same common denominators are true for all conditions and ailments is kind of the what, why, where, when causation. So the more information we have, the better we can. Sorry.
And of course, well, what I'm thinking is, how old is this person?
Mm.
Is it an old symptom recurring? Because often people go through, when people start to go through perimenopause, a lot of really old symptoms start to redevelop or have changed slightly, perhaps even from, many, many years ago. So that when did it start? That is what needs to be treated. So not the experience now, although obviously there might be an acute remedy that would help it be less irritated now, but it will return. What we want to do is be addressing the cause of it, addressing that first time that it happened. And we usually would find that an emotional trauma happened before it first started. In this case, we might also have a physical symptom as well. We might have cysts or fibroids that are pushing down on the bladder, and therefore it might be a necessity to consider scanning of some sort to see if there is something else there that is happening. With homeopathy, we will find that the remedies will ask us these questions. The remedies that will come up will also be useful, for instance, for fibroids. So we'll be asking, have you done any scans? Have you had any tests at all to test for other things? But as Ciara said, what needs to be treated might have happened years ago. That's the first question we're going to be asking.
And I think sometimes as well with something like this, if you have had that particular symptom a month or two or three ago and a remedy has worked very well for maybe a week or two, and you thought, great, I've found the remedy, it's fantastic. If something comes back and is recurrent, it's usually a really kind of big red flag that, you know, the remedy may have certainly kind of had synergy with your particular ailment, as I always say, but sometimes it is pointing the body to push out symptoms or to push out clues that another remedy is needed. So there's layered approach as well for some people. So sorry, just throwing that in.
Well, let's just investigate that a little bit further, because you've described it really well. Because you might have found an acute remedy that helps make it less irritable right now. But let's talk about those layers that we might be needing to cover. We might be needing to address an emotional trauma that happened, a grief or a shock at some stage. We might need to be addressing a physical trauma. She might have had a procedure at some stage, or something that affected the area and caused a change. She might have an inherited susceptibility. There might be something with a weakness that has been passed down through the generations. And of course, there might be constitutional issues as well. So there might be that actually whenever she feels a bit off, it's her bladder that really suffers. So what organ support can we be doing there? So we're looking at treating miasmatically, maybe. We're looking at just treating constitutionally, maybe. We're looking at organ support, probably, as well as something that helps it less irritable just now. So those layers, it's not just a quick fix for now. It's acute prescribing can do that, but if you want to actually really make a difference to your health long term, we need to be looking at all of those other elements and working for 5-6 months maybe.
Yeah, absolutely.
But isn't it worth it?
Yeah, again, it's the kind of the big question mark. It's gone full circle. Is when did it start? Because if it's been with this person for months and years, imagine what can happen if you can work for a couple of months to really just kind of bring yourself back into full health. How wonderful is that?
Yeah, and the fact that actually your body self-heals. Your body can reinstate broken parts. It can work again. It can work nicely again. So we want to go back to that time when it did work really well. And we want to remind your body what that felt like and what happened. And that's the whole point, isn't it, of the depth of homeopathy itself.
Exactly.
Fantastic. Thank you. Have we got time for one more? Should we choose a little one?
Short and sweet.
Let's have a look then. Okay, I have an acute injury. I cannot lift my right arm very high without getting a sharp shooting pain from the top of the shoulder and down the arm. No idea what I did. I'm thinking Arnica and Hypericum. Is that a good idea? Okay, so that's interesting, isn't it? And she's done the right thing. She's looking at an acute injury, not sure what she's done. She's got a sharp shooting pain and she's already considering Arnica and Hypericum.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like this person is really kind of pretty much on the money here, as they say. I would guess that if they have access to a kit at home, and obviously Arnica and Hypericum are part of that kit, if they've access to a description, the materia medica of that remedy, get out your little booklet, open it up, read through the keynotes of the remedy, and if you feel that the sensations that you're feeling, that the location that the acute is in, if your symptoms match Arnica or Hypericum, see what you feel yourself matches the acute injury best, and just have the confidence for those first aid situations to try how and see how you get on. And if after a couple of doses there's not necessarily any change, then that's where you can look for additional support, or just really kind of sit down with a blank canvas and see how am I feeling, and yeah, take it from there. That's my
What we love about when we're exploring the remedies is that the way that you experience the pain is so precise, isn't it? And we have when we first start working with people who haven't perhaps experienced homeopathy before, and they said, well, it hurts. And you say, well, what is hurt? How does it feel for you? Well, you know what pain is, but that actually pain can be so different in so many different ways that just looking for the words is what we really need, because that's what we're putting into the books and referring to. So we will put some links below this podcast to online repertories so that you can see some of the words and the descriptive words, but shooting pain and stitching pain and throbbing pain and lots of dull aches and lots of different ways of feeling that, isn't it? So I'm just going to say, please practice describing your pain, because it is such a good way, isn't it, to get to know homeopathy.
It is. It's really, I always find it actually quite funny is probably not the right word, but I find it really interesting when you're speaking to somebody, whether it's a child or an adult, and whether it's a pain in their stomach, abdomen, uterus, eye, whatever. And if you say to them, so tell me about the pain, what does it feel like? Can you give me any descriptions? And they're looking at me going, it's, as you say, well, it hurts. They realize that nobody has really ever asked them that before. So it's a new language. It's like, oh, okay, stinging, burning. Well, what's the difference between stitching and sticking? And it's a whole new language, and that's how individualized homeopathy is. That we're really getting into the detail of sensations and discolorations, whatever it is. So yeah, it's great fun. Not if you're in it, but when you're
when you're looking at it from the outside. Yeah, and that's what really hooks us in, isn't it? The fact that we need this information and we're exploring it, but also it's giving you the opportunity to get to know your body, to get to know your pains, to get to know how you experience these things. And that's the great thing about homeopathy, is that you will learn so much more about your body just by going through this process and asking yourself these questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. That was good fun.
Have you enjoyed this, Ciara?
Yeah, it was great. Great fun.
Yeah, it's a really good way, isn't it, to answer some of those more complex questions that take more than just a quick answer.
I know. It was really, really interesting. And yeah, just it's always good to kind of revisit. As a homeopath, we're always learning too. So things, can strike you when a particular issue is brought to your attention. You can kind of sit back and take time to look at it a little bit from a distance and be more objective or subjective. So yeah, great.
Thank you so much for joining me. It's so lovely to have a chat and to
Pleasure.
talk homeopathy.
Lovely. We'll do it again soon.
Take care.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you so much, Ciara, for joining me this week. It's always so lovely to be discussing these questions and helping people understand more about homeopathy. Now, next week, I'm going to be answering questions. The questions that I will be answering are about, let's have a look, about can homeopathy cure autism? Very big topic, and I look forward to discussing that in detail with you. Also about how homeopathy can maintain health, can help your children be healthier moving into winter. It's a subject that we need to talk about a lot more. How can we build immunity? Because that is what homeopathy really should be used for by everybody. And the last question that we will be discussing next week is about addressing the trauma, which has brought in some new symptoms. So new symptoms have arrived. What happened before those symptoms occurred? That's what needs to be addressed. So I look forward to speaking with you again next week. And in the meantime, if you have got any questions that you would like answered, please join our Facebook groups. We now have two. We have Ask a Homeopath and we have Homeopathy 24/7. And our whole process is about helping you learn how to use homeopathy efficiently and effectively in your own homes so that you can experience homeopathy and see what it can do to help you maintain and sustain better health. I do hope you've enjoyed these episodes, and I do hope you can subscribe to our channels. Now, there are various ways for you to listen to our podcast or watch it on video on YouTube. So whether it's iTunes, Spotify, or YouTube, please do subscribe and please do leave us a review. If you leave us a review on these platforms, then more people will see our podcast. We just want more people to share the joy of homeopathy. It's a choice that everybody should know about. Please do everything you can to help us help more people.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode and look forward to listening to our next one. Please don't forget to follow our podcast on your chosen channel, and please do leave us a review so we can continue to share homeopathy with as many people as possible. If you do have any questions, please do reach out to us on any of our social platforms mentioned in the show notes. We at Homeopathy 24/7 hope to empower you on your natural health journey.